For much of his career, Peter Cochrane has been on a search for truth. He even helped build a truth engine. Peter joins the Plutopia podcast this time as we examine his long career in science and technology.
Truth is very expensive. It costs you a lot of time, energy, concentration. You have to have these inner arguments, you have discussions with other people, and you gradually zero down to an opinion based on the facts. Whereas Mary on Facebook is that easy. You just believe it, and it's so outrageous that, and it fits your world model. That's the worst aspect. The whole of the social media is tuned to your social or world model, and they just feed you the stuff that reinforces your belief system. And I think that can be said of most religions do the same thing. They feed this story from being a child continually till it becomes fact.
Welcome to the Plutopia News Network podcast. I'm John Lebkowski, one of your co-hosts. I'm joined by the other two co-hosts, Scoop Sweeney and Wendy Grossman. And today on our podcast, our guest is Peter Cochrane, a true pioneer at the intersection of technology, innovation, and human change. Peter is professor, consultant, and agent of change who's spent over 40 years redefining what's possible in technology and communications. As former head of research and chief technology officer at British Telecom, he led groundbreaking work in AI, fiber optic, wireless systems, artificial life, and cybersecurity projects. All of that helped shape the connected world we live in today. He's advised governments and global corporations, written extensively on technology and managing change, and continues to push boundaries. Even after a life-altering hearing loss from a 174 decibel explosion, Peter remains deeply connected, literally, through AI-assisted hearing and continuous digital experimentation. Today, we'll explore his radical thinking, his projects on cyber threat detection and truth engines, and his vision for the future, one where humans and machines may evolve together in surprising ways. So welcome, Peter. It's an honor to have you with us. And I guess the first thing I want to mention is how to build a truth engine. You were on the big screen.
Okay. Well, that was a project that kind of happened by accident. I was working for the foundation in Qatar, and they were connected to a number of universities and had a lot of visiting fellows. And we had this hackathon to see what AI could do about truth and lies. And so a number of documents were put together, and I think there were about 30 teams worldwide, and we fed them these lies, documents with lies and documents with truth. And the results were very surprising. I think, this is going back a few years, I think there was something of the order of 5 or 8 teams were getting about 75 to 85% detection of lies. And that was right off the bat. And well, this is quite something. Let's see if we can put something together and do a little bit better than that. And it was the classic sort of 80-20 kind of rule, where you do something simple and you get 80% of what you need, but the last 20% is going to take your life in terms of energy and effort. So I started work on this, and I did it by analyzing and categorizing dishonesty, if you like. What constitutes a lie? And so I'll give you an example for categorizing news media. Now, the great thing about news media is everything they say and do is available going back in time. So I took a number of sources, including American sources and European sources, and looked at them and took a date in the past uh, and said, what was their first news report on this incident? And so a good organization would say, Chilean mining disaster. It is thought that 37 miners are trapped, yada, yada, yada. And the next report would come up and say, the latest numbers from whatever, or authority, local authority would say it's actually 41, and so on. And gradually, their news report would zero in onto the actual size of the tragedy. At the other end of the spectrum, you got what we call rag sheets in the UK, the glory seekers, the people who just want to get headlines, and they would come up with 200 miners trapped in mine, or 100 miners killed in Chilean mine disaster, and you would hear nothing more of it. And so this was a very easy way with the news media to grade them into good and bad. And so the Washington Post came out very high. The London Times came out pretty good. The same was true of the BBC and other broadcasters, and there was a cluster of them. But I don't have to even ask you to guess what the not so good ones. You get your Fox Newses and so on, they're sort of fairly worthless in that regard. And then I went on from there and started to look at authors. So roughly speaking, a document is published, and you say, what's the title, what's the subject, has this person got any political or commercial links or dealings that would bias their reporting? What have they reported? Now let's go and have a look at one of their reports from some time ago and work back through the history of it, and we can get a measure of their truth quality, if you like. And so by doing this sort of thing for individuals, for organizations, for news media, that sort of thing, I came up with a scale. And so it pushed this sort of 75, 80, 85% AI result up into the 95% immediately. And then the next step was to get some linguistic experts and psychologists in and get them to read stuff and say, have a look at this, what's happening here. And people change their attitude and their tone and their entire invective when they're going to tell a lie or when they're trying to force a false argument. And I have to say that has now become easier because there are a number of societies that are now in a situation where a discussion on anything is impossible. The mindset is now you either agree with me or you're an idiot or you're my enemy. And so, that just doesn't work. So the scientific approach, and I am an applied scientist engineer, is to listen to everything. If you disagree with me, I don't immediately hate you or describe you or think of you as my enemy. And if we can't agree, we agree to disagree. That's it. And that's, I think, that is something that has fallen foul of education change in that I, as a student, had to stand on my own 2 feet in front of a class and argue for something I didn't believe in. And this was an exercise, and
It's
this was
standard
a
in it's
common
standard in
exercise.
debating societies in Britain. I've often
Yes,
thought that's what's wrong with British politics, is that they're trained to argue things they don't believe in.
It could be, but it's to have the ability to in science. I always feel that it's one of those strange subjects where actually it's a great joy to find that you're wrong, because it means you're going to discover something new. And I've had this wonderful career where I've worked in a large corporation. I've worked for my own company, and I work in academia. And I sometimes reveal to people this factoid. Sometimes, on very rare occasions, I'll be giving a class, and suddenly an alarm bell goes off in my brain that I've been getting the right answer for the wrong reasons for the last 35 years.
Yeah, your observations about news operations getting things wrong initially. And
Yes.
I noticed that my early career was in radio news until that became illegal, according to Ronald Reagan. So he didn't like radio news, and nor do our current presidents. But I noticed that the influence of corporate ownership of the news really is what spurred them to jump up and get the facts all wrong, but just because it was okay, because they wanted to be the first to have the story. And that
Yes.
was all coming down from the corporate offices. You know, even in small time radio, the bosses wanted to be the first. If you're the second, then yeah, you're just not doing your job. And that has just, remained in the news. Cable news is among the worst.
Yes. Yes. My fear, if you like, is simply stated. If we lose a grip on the truth, we lose our civilization, we lose our society, it all collapses. Everything that we enjoy today is built on a very clever pack of cards, or house of cards, if you like, a stack. And if you destroy any of the underpinning, you get a collapse. You see this happening in places where they suddenly decide that inoculation of children it doesn't work and it's dangerous, and all those things. Those falsehoods result in deaths. They result in damage to people, and it's absolutely 180 degrees opposed to where I have lived my life. I've always worried about being wrong, and the net result of me being wrong would see another human being getting hurt. And so if you work in any of the defense sector areas, or in the medical sector, or indeed civil engineering, you check things about 1,000 times to make sure you're not wrong, because it's a sort of be a terrible burden to suddenly find that you had been responsible for the loss of a life, or 100 lives, or something like that. So truth has been hammered into me all of my childhood, but also my professional career. And I think one of the biggest revelations is that in science, for example, science is not the truth. Science is the search for the truth. And it takes a while for people to actually come to realize that truth is a dynamic quality. The truth is continually shaped by the information to hand. So if you say, you look at the advancement of science, you can say what we thought about the universe 600 years ago, 400 years ago, 200 years ago, and even now in the last 10 years, due to bigger and better telescopes, has changed all the time. And that is true of all our science. Our science and the truth is defined by our ability to do experiments and do very accurate measurements. And at some point, we finish up just with mathematical models and theories that fit the facts, but we're not quite sure. On a more, if you like, civil or political or whatever ground you look at it, we have a very similar situation. We're very often in organizations having to make decisions on partial truths or imperfect information or the best information we can get. And so what I tried to do with the truth engine was to build in these variances. And it's difficult, I think, for politicians where people are expecting an answer and they do their best. And the best of our politicians will put out corrections, or they will qualify their statements and not make announcements that sound like absolute rock solid, definite truths that can't be argued against.
So for the average human being, yeah, there's not much distinction between what I believe and what is true. I mean, most people think that what they believe is also what is true. And if you've been trained in the scientific method, you understand that you have to kind of let go of belief and focus on the evidence that you can
Yes,
accumulate. And
yes,
even as you accumulate evidence, you
yes,
remain skeptical. I mean, skepticism is an important thing to cultivate.
yes.
Uh, and I just wonder, what is the impact of social media on how people feel about the truth and how people feel about their own beliefs? Because I think there has been a change since social media has become commonplace.
Yes. Well, I always think that truth is very expensive. It costs you a lot of time, energy, concentration. You have to have these inner arguments. You have discussions with other people, and you gradually zero down to an opinion based on the facts. Whereas Mary on Facebook it's dead easy. You just believe it, and it's so outrageous that, and it fits your world model. That's the worst aspect. The whole of the social media is tuned to your social or world model, and they just feed you the stuff that reinforces your belief system. And I think that can be said of most most religions do the same thing. They feed the story from being a child uh, continually till it becomes fact, and it cannot be argued against. It cannot be discussed, and that firmness um, leads to an awful lot of problems.
Unless you're
Um,
Jewish, isn't there a fine Jewish tradition of debating the Torah?
Sorry, say again.
Doesn't the Jewish religion include a lot of debate and stuff about the Torah?
Uh, yes, it
So there would be
does.
an exception, maybe.
Um, there are exceptions, and they all start with a tenet that is assumed. They start off with a model and then build around the model, whereas science tries to find out what the model is. And it's a big difference.
I agree with you, of course, but science is a process. It is a process for arriving at truth. But the problem is when you come to evaluate what is truth. If you're evaluating your truth engine and it tells you what you already believe, that the BBC is trustworthy and the Washington Post is pretty good, but Fox News lies, and there's somebody else who could come along and evaluate it and say, oh, no, Fox News tells the truth and MSNBC is full of garbage. You know, um, how do you build a system that I mean, I think the historical, comparing comparing historical factual results, but people write history books too. So, it seems to me like a truth engine is inevitably going to be rather slippery.
Okay, uh, first of all, you can't trust any system, including the human one. Um, and as an engineer, I have a very simple metric, and I'll put it in the frame of driverless cars. Okay, once we have a driverless car that is killing 10% of the population that a human driver would be killing. So if we get the numbers for human drivers and they're killing 1,000 people a year, and we get a driverless car and it only kills 100 people a year, then we don't complain that the driverless car is useless because it kills people. We do the obvious thing and get rid of all the human drivers. It's a done deal. So the question to ask is, what's the improvement factor? It's not going to be perfect, but what's the improvement factor over a given group of human beings or a human being? And that's the machine advantage, if you like. And that's where I go. And it's the same with AI. Human beings make lots of mistakes. They get lots of things wrong. Now, if AI makes mistakes and gets things wrong, it has to be seen against that background of how is it doing against a human being or the human population? Is it an improvement or is it the same? But the safeguards that we employ with humans, we need to employ with the machines too. After all, in fact, I'm just putting a lecture together for Friday morning, and on part of it is ethics, and we all as professionals have a code of ethics and rules of engagement, and we try to abide by the law and the regulations and all those kinds of things, and we need a similar framework for the machines. And here is the big problem. They are not moving. The technology is not moving at a human pace, or indeed in a human framework. So just before coming on air, I was trying to explain to someone why we will never use entanglement of photons or atoms or electrons for communication, because there is no information transferred ever. And people are getting very excited because it's not exactly an untruth. It's a confusion, and people are using language that say there's an instantaneous communication. No, there isn't. So it's important, I think, to look at what the machines are doing or the technology is doing and frame it against a human reference. And is it better or is it worse?
Well, going back to your driverless cars for a second, supposing that the car does kill 10, only 10% of the people that humans do, but they kill them all at once. So supposing your driverless car kills people by the hundred, but very rarely, whereas the human driver kills them one at a time, somewhat more frequently.
Not quite true, Wendy.
No, I said it's a what if. It's not
Yeah,
a.
well, what if that was the case? The reality is we have terrorists who get vehicles and drive them into crowds.
Well, that's true, but that's not a function. That's not a function of their driving ability. That's
okay,
not. Yeah.
Okay, so this is not a get out, but that, for instance, needs to be debated, and it needs to be debated beyond the science and the engineering, because it is a sociological, or if you like, it is philosophically, we've got to come to terms with this, and we've got to understand it. And the argument I put forward to you is on one plane. It's the engineering dimension. There are other dimensions to this question,
Right.
and those are the philosophical ones, and there are also some interesting legal ones too. Like, who is responsible for this? Is it the guy that wrote the code? Is it the people on the production line? Who built this machine?
Or the guy who put the car on the road that morning.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. So
Right.
that is
This is
beyond
one
my.
of those things where context is everything.
Yes, yes, agreed.
One of the problems with automotive technology is it's hackable and has been quite extensively hacked in this country in ways that I didn't really appreciate until I did some reading on that. So it's great to have self-driving, or automotive driving technology, but once again, anything that can be hacked can become a very dangerous technology.
I'm going to give you a reply that I've given to quite a lot of students. If we go back far enough, the human race were knocking nails in with their fists. And then some bright spark had the idea of picking up a rock and using a rock, but the rocks kept breaking. So they decided to have a research program, and the engineers went away, and 3 years later they came back with a hammer. And they were heralded as heroes because now nails could be put in 1,000 times faster and houses could be built. But after 5 years, some guy decides to kill his wife with a hammer. And now the engineers have invented a murder weapon, and all hammers will be taken out of use. So, what's the upside? There are an awful lot of old, disabled, or incapable people who are not able to drive. They have very limited mobility, and to be able to get into a vehicle and say, "Take me somewhere," would be a real plus. And there, or people who are being ill and they can crawl to their car and say, "Get me to the hospital." Um, there are many cases that you can cite. So we have to make the decision as a society, what do we want to do? My car can certainly be hacked, as probably yours could. And the reality is it is not being hacked. But one young man, distracted by IT in his car, I will say no more, missed a stop sign and broadsided me at 50 miles an hour. My wife dragged me out of the car. Since that day, I've not been able to hear music properly. I have to use the best technology I can for hearing. Here I am. Now, do we say we will stop all young men driving cars on that one incident, or shall we take all the technology out the cars and go back to Henry Ford's days when vehicles were a nightmare and killed people by other mechanisms, or do we advance? I'm afraid we only have one choice, and that is to advance.
Well, actually, what you're quite the comparison. It strikes me that comparing self-driving cars to human drivers might be the wrong comparison. Maybe we should be comparing it to public transport,
Uh,
which has a
I'd
vastly
be,
better safety record.
yeah, Wendy, I would be very happy to discuss that with you. I have just been in Venice with my wife. There are no cars, there are no scooters, there are no motorbikes, there are no bicycles, there are no roller skates, there are no skateboards. You're either on foot or in a boat. That's it. And that city works very well. And what was funny while I was there was to see the Amazon speedboat delivering its packages door to door. And it was literally quite a large speedboat, and it was piled about 4 foot high above the water with packages. And this guy was driving it, and he got a couple of fellows. They grabbed the packages and ran off down the street, and they continued going continuously. And they go deliver a package, run around the back, and jump back on and do the next one. And I thought, well done, Amazon. They get the packages there, no matter what. But
So
that city runs without a single car.
did you see any self-driving boats?
No, I did not. a
Self-driving gondolas, maybe?
well,
I want to see the
well,
self-driving gondola that helps people aboard.
yeah. Well, I have to say that sitting watching the driving of boats in the canals was very much on a par, but a very more sedate pace of driving, of watching Italians driving cars around the city. You know, there was definitely a style that wouldn't go down too well in the US or the UK, I think. But it was an interesting experience, absolutely wonderful, and created about the year 400 due to the collapse of the Roman Empire. And people went there to escape the hordes coming down and raiding, and the city was built, and it's very easy to defend it.
You know, Austin, Texas, where Scoop and I live, or we're in that area, is kind of a testing ground for these driverless vehicles. And we have two different companies building driverless cars, one being the Waymo cars,
Yeah,
which have been here and they've been driving around town without incident for quite some time now, maybe even a year or two. And then there's the Tesla cars, which have got most of the attention, and they have had several accidents
yes.
since they were launched.
Yeah.
And apparently, I don't know quite what it is, but there's a difference in the way the AI is trained and in the way that the AI is implemented in Tesla versus Waymo cars, and it seems to make a difference. And my thought about it is that it's not so much an issue whether you can build a driverless car and set it loose, but whether you can build it well and
Yes.
build it so that it will be unlikely to have an accident.
Yeah. Well, the accident I had, when it occurred, several things happened. The seat belts pulled me back into my seat automatically. All the brakes were applied, and all the airbags went off prior to this actual full-on collision. The net result was I didn't die. So I put my hand up and say, thank you very much for that technology. Unfortunately, the airbag explosion at 174 dBA is a crapshoot. You either come out and recover or you come out deaf. I came out deaf, but I'm alive. On the other hand, I replaced the vehicle, and it's a slightly younger model, and I can drive on a freeway. I click on cruise control. It not only maintains the speed, it tracks the vehicle in front. It also places me between the white lines, and I actually don't have to steer, but I keep my hand on the wheel, and I've always got my foot ready. But if the traffic slows down to a stop, it slows down to a stop. If somebody does something stupid, it will brake aggressively. And if you're driving long distances, this can be a real boon. It takes a little bit of the pressure off the driver. So I have a thesis, if you like, that like it or not, we are going to get driverless cars, not in a big bang, but a notch at a time, a feature at a time. And gradually we will let go and we'll be set free to do something other than pointless machine. And
Was
I can see it happening. The number of cars now that self-park. So as people get very old and they can't quite turn their neck far enough or they can't maneuver very well, to press a button and the car parks itself, marvelous. And so these features and the latest range of Chinese cars uh, do absolutely stupendous things. They will spin around on a dime for you if you wish. So a little bit at a time, these features are embraced by people, and almost subconsciously we're walking towards a driverless future.
You mentioned your hearing loss. Um, my understanding is that you're using some kind of AI supported device for hearing. How
Oh,
does that work?
well, these are the latest hearing aids, and uh, they do. I can set them for in a restaurant. I can put them into a football crowd. I can put them into a library, and if I go into a cathedral, it will take out the reverberation time. If all of those things. So this is, if you like, signal processing that comes with the bead. But what I have done is I have linked my hearing aids to my mobile. My mobile has got several AIs on it, and so I can ask for AI, and I'm permanently connected to the AI network. And that's what I've done. So to activate this thing, all I have to do is tap my hearing aid, and she comes on, and I make a request, and it might be connect me to GPT or connect me to Alexa or whatever I want to do. And then I have this conversational world with the AI. This is an experiment. And so unfortunately, there are a few side effects, and I'm having trouble fixing them. One of them, like all glasses wearers, I might occasionally do that and push my glasses up my nose. That rubs against my hearing aids, and it triggers the AI to come on. So I went to the dentist for a checkup, and she had got to fix something for me. And I sit there in the chair, and I'm lying back, and I said, before we start, you are going to get your head very close to mine. And as you are working, you may hear voices. I want to tell you it's me, not you. And please don't, and please, when you hear a voice, don't jump. Okay. If you think you can't cope with this, I'll take my hearing aids out. So I explained to her and I demonstrated, and she carried on, and she thought it was hilarious. And so it's just an experiment. I've been living with AI on wearing AI, or sometimes, as I would say for a joke, I'm not sure whether AI is wearing me or I'm wearing the AI sometimes. But the sort of path for this is where would it be useful? Does it improve my life? So my attitude towards all technologies is I try it. If it's not useful or it doesn't improve my life, I give it away to somebody else to try. If it improves my life, then I fully adopt it and I run with it. This one's a little bit wider. Um, it could be really quite useful for someone who is blind. Because, and I'll give you an example. Um, I was giving a lecture and I was explaining some of this stuff to students. And I said, let me just, I can't give you the acoustic signal because it's too complex to actually get in and not have lots of feedback and stuff. But let me just demonstrate. And I just asked, where is Jane? And the students started laughing because unbeknown to me, she appeared on the screen behind me. And there was all the details of where she was. You know, and that was a surprise. I didn't realize it was going to do that. I hadn't realized that when it got access to a screen, I could actually get it to put things on the screen. And you can start to imagine where this is going. It's towards this uh, Star Trek kind of a world where you have a badge and you just tap it and you talk to any computer and it talks to you. Only I don't have to go to a computer. It's in my head all the time. There you go.
So, what is your level of trust with the the I don't know, the responses that you're getting from AI?
Um, Sometimes um, they are useless because it doesn't understand what I'm after, and that's a question of an ill-posed question, if you like. And I have to say that happens between me and my wife, and it happens between lots of human beings where you're trying to ask for something, and there's a momentary glitch, and so I treat it like that. Um, the I very often will ask it a route. So if I'm in London, I will ask, how do I get to, and she will then navigate me, turn left, turn right, whatever, without me having to look at a screen. And so far, it's been pretty damn good. But it's no better than the AI that you would sit and type at. Um, if you can, the voice IO is, I think, really impressive now. It's getting, I would say, it's better than a human being for uh, getting the individual words. Where it's tricky is it getting the individual meaning that I'm trying to put across, and I'm really quite happy with it. I'm trying to push it further. I'm working with an AI company in Singapore, and they've got a rather fabulous interface. So I can't demonstrate this for you, but to um, I could say to it, give me the headlines in Le Monde in English, please. And so it will go and look at the French newspaper, translate it, and give it me. So that's taken out work. I don't have to get the download and then translate it. It comes straight through. And that is quite powerful. I think that uh, being able to get a translation instantaneously, that I can break down this barrier between the various languages. That will be quite good. And so I'm just playing just to see what happens, see where it goes, which has always been my mode of operation. It's kind of an interesting journey.
I ran into a quote this morning from a guy named Hugo Campos, who is like a patient advocate and somebody that I know. But he had said, I don't use AI to give me answers. I use it to help me think.
Yes,
And that seems like a good approach, really.
yes. So I will. I have a relationship, a very strong relationship with an AI, and this AI has seen my CV. I've talked to it about my life, what I do, how I work, what I'm trying to achieve, and I've given it a series of tasks. And so a recent one that I tried was a discussion about quantum mechanics and this rising tide of opinion that says we'll be able to communicate instantly between any 2 points in the universe using entanglement. And the answer to that is no, we won't. It will never happen. No information is transferred. And so I had this dialogue with the AI, and we argued the case and came to quite a nice formatted document. And then I had a big failure because I came up with a problem, and I said to the AI, I want you to research this topic. I want you to find every publication on this topic that is available. I want you to analyze it, and I want you to give me the arguments for and against. this particular technology and what is happening. And I'd like you to do it over the weekend if you can. And the AI said, I'll work on it over the weekend. And so on the Monday morning, I went in and said, how did you get on? And the AI said, I've had a confession. What's the confession? And I said, well, I can't work for you when you're not logged on, and you logged out. And so I've done nothing.
That's very truthful
Oops.
there. You know, in the United States, AI has had an impact on our legal system because lazy attorneys have started using AI to create their filings for
Yes.
cases, and it's generated a flood of bad pleadings because when the AI can't answer their request, they've
They
been
don't.
making them up. Have you
Yeah.
encountered that in the UK or in Europe?
No, but just before COVID, I was called in for the Lord Chief Justice Office. We have a crisis across Europe where there are not enough. We have barristers, and the barristers, they're sort of super lawyers, if they like. They read all the documents and they pose all the arguments for and again, and they will go and argue in the courts. And they're overloaded to the point where they just cannot cope. And I use AI to do this for me. If you've got 15,000 pages to read, it's so nice to be able to say to an AI, read this document and give me a 1,000 word or a 5,000 word bullet pointed summary of the key points. What are the key arguments? And extract them. And that's what the barristers have to do a lot of the time. And there have been experiments done with that, but we've not got to the point where it's the whole thing is handed over to the AI and the AI does the whole job. So we're not as adventurous as that. Where it has also been used is in medicine, and there's been a lot of people writing, goodbye doctor, goodbye surgeon, AI and the robots are going to do it all. Well, not quite. Not quite. But there's no doubt that the AI is able to extract information better and mostly make better judgment. And the AI doesn't have a judgmental face. So a lot of people are more willing to tell the truth to an AI than to a male or a female doctor or a surgeon. And there are some very good benefits there. But I'm going to point something out to you, and I call it exponential education. And it goes like this. We're mutating gradually towards what I would call more buddy-buddy surgery, where you've got a surgeon and you've got a robot, and they're working together on a patient. And that's going well, and a mistake is made. And that mistake is immediately reported, and all the robots know about it, and they can advise their surgeon. But very occasionally, a mistake is made and something is discovered, an improvement occurs, and immediately 60,000 robots on the network know and understand that. So you don't have this incident written up and put in the Lancet, published 3 months later and taking 10 years to spread through the industry. It's instantly you get this notch up. And I'm seeing more evidence of that happening across disciplines, where discoveries and advances are made, but the whole thing happens much faster. I think one of the things I don't think people understand is the reason for the acceleration of science during the Reformation was almost certainly down to the invention of the printing press in Europe. and the ability to record information, disseminate information, and exchange information. And we now do that par excellence. And of course, there's some downsides, but for the professions, I think it's a real godsend. I don't worry about being out of a job, but I am now able to do, I would say, 3 months' work in an afternoon in terms of searching for references, checking facts, and doing analysis of other people's work. That's incredibly powerful.
Well, I have a question based on some comments you used to make frequently. Is your PC proud of you yet?
I'm gradually getting there, and I'm gradually getting there. I was looking at all the machines I've had in my life, and even though I understand what is happening, I still feel a sense of wonder about the technology and the life I'm able to live. And I was brought up on thermionic valves. As a child, I used to carry an accumulator, which was a lead acid battery, up to the local store to get it charged so we could listen to the radio. And here I am with more computing power than I could have dreamt of. I mean, it's astonishing. If you probably can remember years ago, I made one of these, and this is an iWatch, but I made one, and it was like a gauntlet with a screen and a keypad. And what I didn't reveal for some time was there was an umbilical cable up my sleeve, down the back of my shirt, down my trouser leg, to a room which was 5 VAX computers. 5 VAX computers, and I could do all this fancy stuff, but this is far more powerful than 500 VAX computers. You know, I mean, this is in one lifetime. It's quite astonishing. I find it quite sad when people have lost their sense of wonderment at what we can actually now do. And they turn it into, I suppose it's the lowest common denominator. They use it for stuff that it wasn't designed to do. You can do it, okay. But I noticed there's a campaign on the web now is, don't spend your days looking at social media. Use our AI system and do 20 minutes a day educational courses and things like this. And some of those are really quite good. They're very well done.
What do you think of the tendency for people to refer to the output of generative AI as slop?
I don't agree with them in as much that I asked the fundamental question, how are you doing when you got to 20? With your ability to reason and write and solve problems and communicate well, etc., etc. Because this machine has done it in a few months. It's still learning. It's still a child. It's got a long way to go. We're just opening the door a little bit. And I rail against all of the pundits who say, well, computers will never play a good game of chess and never play grandmaster, or a robot will never feel what I feel, etc. And my argument is this. If I took a newborn baby and I put it in a metal box and I fed it and I kept it clean and I was to send it information in some form and say, what's this baby like at the age of 20? What would it know? It would know nothing. It wouldn't know the warmth of a mother or a father. It wouldn't know what the weather was doing. It wouldn't know what the wind was. It wouldn't know what food could be like, and all of those things. And so we've got the reverse of that analogy. We've got devices that have got all the brain power, but they've not got the sensory network. And in my view, one of the worst comparisons that are being made is between these machines and the human brain. The human brain is not all in the head. The human brain is the entire nervous system of the body. And that it feeds information from every extent of the human body. And it's without that, you don't get the idea of your position in space, your situation. You have no situational awareness. And so until we give the machines sensory capability, they're not going to be like us. Great. I'm a great enthusiast about machines because they think different to us. There are 8 billion of us, and if we build a robot machine that's as good as us, we'll have 8 billion and one. I'm more interested in the machines that solve problems and think differently to us. And for the last 40 years, in one form or another, I've had AI as one of my team members. Incredibly crude for the mass majority of the time, but now they are really good team members and they can bring a team, a group of people, to a point where we can make a decision and we can understand things. That's the benefit to my mind. There are problems we have that we can't solve, that we will never be able to solve them. The human brain is incapable of coping with the complexity, but the machines can do it. Hoorah.
Yeah, they can do things that we can't do, but
That's where I'm focused.
they're not going to become us. I mean, I'm very skeptical of, there's a lot of discussion of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and the
Yes.
idea that that these machines will think. I mean, they're never going to think the way that we think for the
Hopefully
reasons
not.
that you already stated.
Yeah.
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 So I don't really even know how to respond to those things. And it surprises me that very intelligent people who really seem to understand the technology pretty well project that such a thing will that they will have that result at some point. So like Ray Kurzweil or whatever. And I just can't buy it.
I'm hoping that they will be different. If I go back uh, to my time when I was engaged with MIT, uh, it was a wonderful period. And I can remember some of the discussions, like let's do an experiment where we put the eye on the end of the finger. Would it be more useful on the end of the finger? And there were many features that popped up that a lot of people don't understand. Why is the nose here instead of on the top of your head? But it's the last line of defense before you put something pretty awful in your mouth. It is there for a purpose, and it's there with all mammals. The sensory system is not willy-nilly. And the other thing that I always feel uh, is a very wrong argument is to compare us to any animals or to compare animals. All animals have evolved to fit into their environment, and you can say, well, the dolphins talk to each other, but they're not intelligent. Throw a man into the middle of the Pacific and see how long he lasts.
Does
It's
anybody
like
think that dolphins are not intelligent?
there are people who question the level of intelligence of all animals. My observation is, if you look at the intelligence of the animals in the context of their environment, it is quite remarkable.
We see more and more evidence that they know that they work out how to use tools. And,
Yes,
and
they do.
yeah,
And
I always think of it as a spectrum, and we're
yes,
somewhere on a spectrum of intelligence and emotions. And
yes. And I can remember when the philosophers used to make statements like the difference between man and animals and their intelligence is that animals don't make tools, and almost all the animals make tools. They just didn't look. So I feel that the wider understanding.
There's a similar story about gay animals. A friend of ours, John knows her, wrote one of the funniest book reviews I've ever read in my life for Salon about this book compendium of evidence of homosexuality and, well, same-sex sexual congress and all sorts of other things among animals. And researchers have been seeing it for years, but they've been afraid to report it because they couldn't believe what they were seeing, or thought they would lose their grant money.
Yes, yes.
They would definitely lose their grant money today. No doubt. We have reached the end of the hour, and this has just been such a fascinating discussion. I hope you'll come back sometime and we can talk more.
I would love to do that, John. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. When I go shopping with my wife, she says that I'm like a 7-year-old child, and I'm thankful for that. I get excited, I get enthusiastic, I derive a terrific amount of pleasure of working with people and doing new things. And so many ideas that I've had that seemed to be crazy at the time and have actually come true. It's been really good. So I'll tell you what my epitaph is going to be as I depart this ride. It's going to be very, very short. It's just going to be, what a ride.
Indeed. Well, this has been a great ride today. Thanks so much.
A pleasure. I do hope to see you again, and it would be a pleasure to come back and talk to you.
You can stay in touch with Plutopia at plutopia.io. On Facebook, look for @Plutopia News. On Twitter, it's @Plutopia. This is the Plutopia News Network, 20 minutes into the future.